Welcome to Tea Time with Kitty. Giving everyone a second to get all logged in. Thank you for joining each and every week and welcome. Today's topic is going to be restoring the family, and we're going to give some different steps to trying to restore your family. And we're going to also talk about what happens when you feel like restoring is not something that will work or that you're not willing to do. So just giving everyone a second to get all chimed in, and I'm going to pull up my pointers for today. And thank you again so much for joining. And let me just grab. Okay. And hey, sister, miss you so much, sister. How are you? So I do want to say happy birthday, 50th birthday to hey sis, to my brother who will be turning 50 on Saturday. So we will be celebrating him. And to my cousin who will be celebrating her birthday, and my auntie, two aunties from work, Morris and Teresa. So hey Donald, so happy birthday to them. And Flood, I definitely want to say happy birthday to you, even though we got a few weeks to go. But in case you're not able to join back on, happy birthday to you, sis, who will be celebrating your birthday on the 30th. Hey, sis. I'm still laughing at that post you had earlier. It was everything. But for some of you, I told you all that we were traveling on our family trip. We haven't done one prior to COVID. Hey, Pookie. So we're just getting back on track with it. And it was an awesome experience. And it's just a prime example of bonding time, right? It's not always about doing things or how much money you spend or where you're going, but bonding time, right? Especially when you have younger children in a family and they don't get to see those great aunts and those great uncles all the time, or even sometimes aunts and uncles all the time. It gives you a chance to build. Not only does it give you a chance to build, but it also gives you a chance to heal, and it gives you a chance to look inside of yourself. Okay, Yanni. Hey, Yanni. Gives you a chance to look inside yourself and examine a piece that you may add to the equation or what you're taking away from it, right? So we're going to get ready to jump into it. Today's topic is restoring the family. And one of the first things to do when restoring the family, if you choose, because again, in life, there's always choices, and if you choose to be a very valuable person in your family, you have to come from a place of love. You definitely have to come from a place of love. So when I talk about love, we're going to go to what the word says about love, right? Okay, so Corinthians 13, 4 through 8 says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. And that's so important. It does not insist on its own way because we're not always right and we're not always operating in love. It is not irritable or resentful, right? It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth, right? So that's what we're talking about when we start there with love, because a lot of times people can't get through the next steps that we have without love, because sometimes we look at people and say, well, how did they put up with that? How did they go through with that? How are they still with this person? Well, it's love, because if you're operating out of spirit of love and a space of love, it's not so easy to give up on people that you love, right? And a lot of times people expect people to give up on their spouses all the time, but spouses are not the only person that takes us through things, right? So be mindful of that, and it's very important. Yes, love. It's very important that you operate in love, and it has a lot to do with our families, our business, our churches. If we just operate in love, love should supersede everything in your life, even when you're disappointed, even when you don't have a sense of understanding. Try to operate in love, and it's not always easy to operate in love, because when we're operating in love, one of the key tools that we need is patience, right? We need patience, because if anybody other than myself know it or not, Our family members are people, right? So with people, you get some good, you get some bad, you get some somewhere in the middle, but they are people. So I think that it's very important that we don't forget that people are people when we're dealing with people, right? So let's have some patience with people, okay? One of the things that's so important with having patience is giving the person time. Whoever that is that you're struggling with love, give them some time. If you're spiritual, make sure you're praying for them. If you're just a motivational speaker, make sure you're speaking it to them. But make sure that you're having some patience. The person needs to have patience with you, and you need to have patience with the person. Also, when looking at patience, giving yourself time to heal. Not only giving yourself time to heal, but giving others time to heal. Like this may not be a season where we can talk about past hurt or some things that happened in our life so many years ago. Just may not be the season. So a mature adult should be able to say, hey, this is not the time to revisit this. It still gives me anxiety. It still gets me truly upset. But we definitely have to recognize when it is the right time. Having those appropriate, however, uncomfortable conversations. So when it is time, right? What does that look like? Okay. So even when it's time for you, and now that I'm ready to have this discussion, it's so important that you make sure that it's a good space for others. Make sure they're in the good space in their own lives, because sometimes we are ready to dump on others, especially our family members. But sometimes people have a lot going on, and it's not a season for them to receive it as well. So all these things are talking about practicing patience. It's so important to have love, and it's so important to practice patience. Be patient, even if it's down to your children, right? Be patient, because sometimes when we're overwhelmed, things may not come out. It may tend to make us, pop our kids quicker, may make it easier to say some inappropriate things to our children quicker. But make sure that we're having some patience and we're removing, because I know that my parenting style 20 years ago is definitely not my parenting style today, right? And then we're going to look at the next pointer for this is understanding. Understanding is so key, whether it's love, whether it's patient, whether it's dealing with family or even a friend. Have some understanding behind the why. The why is very important. Know that what your expectation is, as well as your perspective, and as well for someone else, right? So, and then also with understanding, identify the role that you play. Sometimes we truly become the victim, and some of us are the victim, but then we also have people, hey now, that play the victim, right? Hey Rail. So if you are one that's playing the victim, think about, because like I'm telling you, when we're going through a lot in life and we're overwhelmed, anything can agitate you. If you just look at your life, like when you're in a good mood and you're got this really good feeling, you're able to take on a little bit more than you're able to take on when you're not in good spirits, right? So examine yourself and say, hey, how am I contributing? Am I making the situation worse, or am I making the situation better? Because again, we're all adults. So take some ownership for it, and with your understanding. Forgiveness. This is very key. Forgiving is so important. I had a chance to I have a sister, well, both of my younger sisters always kind of talk to me about so much with life. They kind of vent to me. I'm able to vent back to them. But the one thing that one of my sisters would say is, how I may have handled things in the past, right? So it's so important to forgive people, because sometimes people truly give you all that they have, right? Sometimes we cannot look at somebody else's life. And my dad always told me this as a little girl. You never get so distracted in your life based on what somebody else had, because you don't know how they got it, right? So you see someone with this nice house, you see someone with this nice car, you see this person with these nice grandparenting skills or parenting skills. Hey, Chucky. And you feel like you're entitled to where everything that's due to us we will receive in due time. So do not lose focus on what you're doing based on someone else's life and situation. When I know for a fact, when I was 19 years old, I already, I didn't have all the knowledge, the education, the professionalism, the spiritual background and all those things at the age of 19. But even at the age of 19, I was caring for two children. I cared for my mom. I cared for my younger brother, making sure he had school clothes. So I just did so much, right? But in the mix of all of this, I never really properly cared for myself, right? Now, the thing that I want adults to know and understand first and foremost, when we are in a very, I want to use a good word. I want to use a good word. When we are not in, okay, well, when we are not in the best space as adults, do anyone know who the number one victims are when we're not in a good space as an adult? Can anybody chime in on who they think that is affected the most when we're not in the children? It is the children, the helpless children, when we are not in a good space. And I know that from just my parenting style with Pookie and how I got a little bit better with Yanni. And then it was really, I thought awesome by the time Shamika and Donald until it was Sanaya and Samante. So please understand that when you are overwhelmed, it's very important that you seek help. It's very important that you seek help because the thing about it is, most of us, when we're adults, we kind of look back on what our parents did or did not do. We look at how they could have done it better. We look at how they showed favoritism with different children. So if we have all these issues and reservations about our parents and how they raised us, then that should make us extra mindful of how we deal with our children because and breaking generational curses, we want to make sure that we're not doing the same parenting style to our children that we disagree with on our parents, right? Because sometimes we can be our mini parents and not even know it, like many parents. Like I am a mini Barbara Jean, right? Not her to the core, but I every day as I grow older, I see so many different things and ways of my mom. So we have to be mindful of that. So before I go a little bit deeper, I just want to start for you all and just ask, what is your technique for restoring a family? And if everybody would just chat in with one word, I know praying, I'm a praying person, but I know that putting some action behind the prayer is also important. What are your skills, your ways of doing things, your techniques for restoring your family? We have choices. Okay. So when you say choices, does that mean make better choices? Does it mean that you make different decisions now based on how you were raised, making better choices when it comes to family? Um, Kiana, come on back. Consistency, elevating. Um, Family meet. Oh my God, sister. I didn't have that on the platform. And it was something my other sister Sharon gave me too. I hope she can drop it in the chat or text it to me. But family meetings are so important. I had my first family meeting while my kids was older during COVID. And my sister, Mrs. Eastep, is to encourage me to do that, right? And just to kind of put some things out. But the one thing I would say, they are far from each other. So I would like to get more consistent, and I would definitely put that on my organizational chart going forward to get more consistent with the family meetings. If it's worth making better, do it. If not worth fixing it, go away. And we're going to get into that section of it in just a second. I just want to hear a little bit more from you all. What do you take from this? Because I know that people adore families. Believe it or not, people adore families, right? They adore seeing families out enjoying themselves. I know I adore families. I love looking at big posters of family pictures where everybody comes together and take family photos. I like looking at the color coordination and all those types of things. So you may adore families as well, and you may have a technique that keep your family on track to get you where you and your family needs to be. Also minimize. I don't consider distant relatives that I don't like that I don't like my family. So I can speak positively about my family because I dismiss the ones I don't like. Okay. So we'll get to that. Okay. Um, Vacation, no matter the age, spending quality time. And Kiana, that is so key because this piece of quality time was much needed. You know, you get so anxious about the trip, can't wait to get there with them. You get there, you have all these activities and layout, but only Lord knows how much you glad to get away from them family members when it's time to crawl back to your space. But it's so important. Please travel with your family. It doesn't have to be a cruise. It doesn't have to be out of the country. It could be an Airbnb an hour away just to be in the house under the roof, and I guarantee you will get something. Just make sure, like Yanni said, it's the right family because quality time is so like Yanni was able, Yanni. Not Yanni. Yari was able to interact with my brothers. They were able to hold her because she gets in her moods. She was able to hug up on them, love up on them, and have a good time, not being clingy, but really like, so when she sees them out, who are these people? She ain't got to say, who are these people? It brings out a lot. Some things you might not want to hear about yourself. Keep an open mind, sister. That is so important. Keeping an open mind, right? Keeping open because our kids see so much. Someone told me that it was a saying about children. Oh, gosh, I wish I would have had it. That someone told me a few weeks ago. But they are looking at everything we do, and sometimes they do things that act a certain kind of way because of the way they view us handling situations. I would never forget when I would be in my overwhelming days. This mother with 6 kids and trying to get here and get there and get on time. I would sometimes curse in traffic. And my youngest twins, because they didn't hear me curse that often, they took pride in that. And because they got so excited about it, it's what stopped me from cussing again, right? Until I had to cuss at them again, right? But it definitely stopped me because they would just love the road rage so much. They would enjoy it. They would be all into it and ready to go, right? So that is so important. They are the best recorders but the worst interpreters. That's what children are, the worst recorders, but the best recorders but the worst interpreters. So make sure that we are mindful of what we're allowing them to see because it may be one way for us but their interpretation of the matter could be something totally different. They receive everything but cannot process it in the way that adults do, right? So it's so important to love on your family, right? Love on your family, be patient, be kind. And sometimes we will never get the true why behind everything. But it wasn't until I was a mature adult with middle-aged children that I was able to appreciate my parents more and more because I trust God. And I trust the fact that anything that I feel that my parents did or did not do, I feel that it was his design that they were my parent and I was not theirs, right? So it has a lot to do with trusting God's design. It was a reason that he chose them to be my parent instead of them me being their parent, right? And I also respect order. You know, the head of our family is my oldest brother, and that will not sway, right? So even when it gets down to decisions, I never forget my mom was in a hospital and she was really, really bad off at this time. And my uncle, we came from a messy family, love them to pieces, but sometimes it's all they know. You don't hate them for it. You love them to pieces, but you stand your ground, right? And my brother said he was moving my mom to a Nova Fairfax hospital. So my uncle called me. He going off and because, that don't make no sense. Who he think he is, the move. And I told my uncle, we never, and this had to be over 10, 15 years ago. We never had this issue again. I told my uncle, I said, well, my brother makes the decisions. He's the head of our family and he makes the decisions. And me, Mark, and Prentice are already in agreement. So you don't need to call Mark. You don't need to call Prentice. You don't need to call me. Chucky made a decision. that decision is going to be upheld, and we are going to support him because he is the head of the Bubblicious Kids, right? And we never had family to intervene. And then me being a nice person that I am, and because I love my family so much, even this uncle so much, I told my uncle, I said, and let me know if you need money to get to see my mom or if you need me to drive you when I go, because we are definitely not moving my mom far out and not allowing her to be able to see her siblings that we know have hardship and we know have limited resources. We're going to get you there. And if you don't want us to drive you there, we're going to get you transportation money to get there. And I think that once we identify order in a family and once you're solid and you're standing on it, it doesn't give anybody else the opportunity to try to come in and manipulate the situation. Me and my brothers stand firm on our decisions. Although me and Chucky are more the mouthy ones in the decision making, and Prentice and Marcus are more of the okay, but it has worked for us, and that's why so much of our family business is has boundaries, right? It's only little that knows about anything that goes on with Barbara Jean children because of boundaries. And that's something that I want to encourage you to make sure when you're talking about your family, make sure you're able to say it to someone in a safe space, right? Make sure it's someone that just going to give you some insight on it and help the situation. Why are you talking family business to people that may not value family? It's very important that we remember that our topics should be geared to someone that can help the situation. Because if you want mess, you can just put it on Facebook, right? Because again, we're restoring the family. One more minute, I'm going to get to talking about what we're going to do if you can't restore the family. But I just want to hear from you all. Do anyone else have anything that you want to add when it talks about restoring the family? I always tell my story and share it very often as being a young child, and all I wanted was a family. And today, not only did God give me a family, but He gave me the greatest family in the world. When I say I love my brothers so much, I love my sisters, my heaven sent sisters, my work sisters, like so much. Like really having that agape love by putting myself in the space of people that could love me back, right? Because it's very easy to take toxic traits to toxic people and make it even more toxic, because anybody that truly cares for you and loves for you is going to want to see you win. Even if you have a husband that may have cheated or a wife that may have cheated, that person is going to be praying for you. They're going to be sitting with you. They're going to be talking to you, and they're going to be supporting you. Because if anybody know, it's not that easy to give up on somebody that you love. You don't need anybody in your ear telling you what you should have did. Well, if it was me, well, it's not you, right? But if you keep making that statement, it will be you one day, because you will be speaking it into your life. When you're going through things with your children, have it be someone that you can talk to about in a safe space, and then not be someone to be running and saying, hey, I don't want to, I just want to tell you her business. I want to tell you, because I am very transparent with that things. And I thank God that He gives me the right ears to be transparent too, and that I don't have to be looked down on or treated differently because of me being so transparent. Anyone else that has any more pointers as it relates to family? I'm just going to go back over again. We don't choose our family. um our family sometimes don't even choose us, right? It's the makeup. So make sure that we're loving on our family, and we're being committed to them and dedicated to them. Make sure that we're being patient with our family, right? Making sure, because some people grow differently. I know that I was looking back at my life the other day and just thinking, like, wow, people had huge expectations for me before I was even 20. Like, before I was 20, I was responsible for a whole family. I didn't have anyone to look up to, other than I always say my oldest brother, my brothers in general. And but I had nobody to look up to or to guide me in a direction to say. So I made mistakes, I messed up, right? But the one thing that I tried to always do was go back and right my wrongs, right? Always try to go back and right my wrongs, because a 20-year-old being responsible for a family of about 10 people is not an easy task. And I'm not just talking about being mentally responsible for them, I'm talking about financially, emotionally, and so many different ways. Like most of my immediate family has lived with me at some point, right? Has lived with me at some point, and I don't think that I ever put anybody in my immediate family out. You know, they left when it was time, but I would like to say that even as a young adult, my place was always a safe haven. So you have to ask yourself things like that about yourself. Like, what are you depositing? Are you the one that go around talking about everybody in the family that's homeless, or are you telling somebody they can eat at your table? So definitely, be patient with people and then understanding. As we talk again about being understanding, please be understanding to your family. What you cannot get $100 out of a bank account if you got $30 in it without overdrawing it. And when we talk about overdrawing it, if some banks do let you get it out, you're going to owe more than you took out. So do not get overwhelmed. Do not overdraft. Let what you have to provide for others be sufficient on that day. Um, Next we have, and then we talked about forgiving. None of these steps will work if you're not willing to forgive. If you're someone who's going to harbor what happened 30 years ago for 30 more years, I'm gonna let that. I'm gonna let. I'm like, oh, hey, Mimi. She said, hey, Mimi. So if you're still harboring something from 30 years ago, please figure out a way to release it. Talk to the person. Mimi, I was just talking about you because you know you and Mika are my voice of reasoning. You know, people that I can talk to, or you all will talk to me. You can be honest, you know, with telling me things, and I respect that so much, especially at your young age. But I definitely as I get back to talking about, you know, the forgiving part, find out if you're in a place that you can forgive. Now, this is the most harsh part that I have to speak on. The most harsh part is if these things does not apply, if they don't work, you have to rebuild you a new one. And but you have to rebuild you a new one, and it can be done. Do not sabotage the old one. Figure out if you just say, hey, I'm not trying, forget these mofos. I've already experienced them for who they are. I already know how they are. I already know what they're going to do. I just can't tolerate. If you truly can't forgive and be a forgiving person, I think Alicia is so forgiving, and you can't be a forgiving person, um, then you have to say, hey, if all else fails, um, don't sabotage the owner, right? Because what may not work for you may work for someone else. Someone else it may be working for. Do not sabotage it. When you know you're not in a good space, remove it's okay. Love lasts a long time. I'm telling you, love, there's some things that don't. You know, our milk doesn't always last long, our bread doesn't always last long. But not only does the word say it, but I know it from experience. Love lasts a long time. So if you're not in a good space or good season, instead of adding fuel to fire, remove yourself from. I despise a negative person, right? Because I used to be one, so I know what it's like, and I remember during the season that I was one, right? And when you waddle in mess and you waddle in being bitter, you will stay there. It's very hard, you know. Most people that has like a really mean face all the time, it will show in their forehead and in their neck. It doesn't leave because you're frowned up all the time. You got, no matter if you tried to make it better or if you did not try and make it better. If something does not work for you, you know you don't owe anyone an explanation. Hey, this does not work for me. I'm removing myself from this equation. I am removing because my thing is, my aunt told me that by the time you're 30, and she told me this probably 30 years ago. But most of the time, adults who turn the age of 30 are who they are. There's not much you can do to go back and have them fix what happened 30 years ago. Adults are who they are. So what we have to do is make a decision as to how we're going to let it impact our life and move from it, right? And it's very, you say 25, okay, okay. BB told me 30, but you say 25. And I think that is very important. So again, restore your family. And in part of restoring your family, you have to start with restoring yourself. Take a deep dive into yourself and who you are. Know what make you tick, know what irritates you, know what you're missing, and let your voice be heard. You can't change the outcome of what someone does once your voice is heard, but at least you would have released. You may release some deep conversations and need some deep healing, and the other person may say, okay, and not give two or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you've done what you needed to do by releasing what you needed to release so that you can heal and move on. I love my family, and I take great pleasure in knowing that they love me. And if they don't, I have declared this day that I will not give any extra apologies or any extra weigh-ins on out of how I did things 30 years ago or more. I am a different person. Old things passed away, all things new. I love the person that I am. I love the people that love me back for being the person that I am. So, as of this broadcast here today, I would say do not overly apologize for a past that you no longer have any control of. Thank you all so much for always sipping with a sister. I look forward to hearing you back again next week and have a great week. Thank you.